You're watching Rain Knight Gaming.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Rain Knight Gaming. I'm Rain Knight, and today we're finishing up our series of doing deep dives of all of the Gundam structure decks by finishing up with Structure Deck 4. And this is going to be Seed Strike, all about things from Gundam Seed. And this is going to be a red-white deck, so you can already kind of guess it's going to be fairly decent because white, I think it's the best color currently. Just because having blockers is really pretty decent. And they usually have fairly big booties. So we'll look into it and see what happens. Jumping right into the card by card. This one has a couple cards in it that we've had to find the art for because they're released, but not quite released. First up is Mobius. This is going to be this card right here, and it's a 1/1 blocker that costs 1/1, so it's a demi-trainer. Yeah. I like it. 1/1 drops that with blocker can be handy throughout the entire portion of the game. So just like Demi-Trainer, this is actually a pretty solid card. Definitely something you definitely want to have in your deck. Then we've got the first Gen. This is Magaulus' Gen. And this is when paired and is destroyed. If you have another linked unit in play, draw one. I don't like this. I mean, it's a 3/1, so it's got a low HP, which kind of sucks. 3 attack is nice just because you can get through that EX space, but it's such a specific effect. It has to be paired. It has to have another link pair on the board. Early on in the game, that's just not going to happen. It's not. It is cool having something that's such a low cost that has a link pair. That I actually do like, just because it gives you that early game pressure. And similar to Structure Deck 1, this deck has a little bit extra rush in the beginning of it, so that can be pretty handy on doing well in the game itself. Our early 2/2 dropper is a 2/2/3/2, so Dagger Strike. I think it's pretty good, solid vanilla. The 3/2 stat line is pretty solid. Early on in the game, you're able to swing over that EX base, get over some early game units. Not too bad. The 2 health is going to let you get over demi-trainers and things like that just have the 1 HP. So 1 attack, 1 HP kind of deal. So pretty solid 2/2 drop, actually. Then we've got Gen, and I had to find a picture for this one. Pretty sure this is it. This is just a vanilla 2/1. It's a 2/1, I believe. I'd have to look, but I'm pretty sure it's a 2/1. It's another vanilla. It's a low-cost vanilla. It just adds into that rushy kind of early game style that red kind of gives you, and white kind of helps with. So not a bad card. Nothing's gonna, break the bank. I think it's probably gonna get taken out of any red decks. I don't think it's gonna be used all that much. Then we get into our Mobius 0. This is a 3/2/2/4 with a link. Not bad. I don't mind the 2/4. I think this is similar to Gun Cannon, which is it's a pretty darn solid card, strictly because it's a 2/4. 4 is just a big bodied unit, and actually having a link to it is pretty darn nice. So as a 3/2, not bad. You hit that third turn, you can drop one of these, maybe another 1 drop. Or this guy plus his pilot, gonna be pretty solid. So, decent card. 4/3. How you guys' name? Argus Gundam. I don't like this card. I don't know about you. Let me know in the comments down below if you like this card. I find this card, you never really get its effect. Because on attack, this unit has to have 5 HP, so it has to have a pilot on it. Choose one enemy unit that is level 5 or higher, deal 3 damage to it. That's a lot of conditions to meet. You have to have buffed HP. You got to swing over something that is level 5 or higher. Ugh, I don't like all that. And this is an LR, so you really want to get a lot of value out of your LRs. I just don't like this card. It's one that is just not my favorite. Not my favorite. A 4/3 stat line is okay. The health's okay. The attack's pretty decent. You only need to get 1. And it is a pretty good pilot that you're putting on there, but I would actually prefer to use this card. The Argus Gundam MA mode is a 4/3, so check us out. 4-3, 4-3. Just reverse stats. I actually prefer this one because this is going to get you Breach 3, which I think is better than the pop sometimes. And I really think as more cards come out, Breach is going to be fairly decent. It'll probably have its time in the sun at some point. Also, the links with the same pilot. Again, I'd rather run one of these instead of one of these. That's just me, though. Strike Gundam. Strike Gundam is a 4-2, which is nice. 3-3. Links with Kira. There is a great pilot. Great effect. Deploy, draw one, discard one. I love card draw. Yeah, it's a 1-for-1, but, you know, I love having card draw. I can't help it. Early on in the game, well, middle range of the game, you're probably going to have some chaff in your hand that you don't really need, or it's like you would rather have something else. You play these, you get a little bit of change to your hand, can come in super handy. 3-3, decent stat line for a 2 cost. I don't mind this at all. On turn 4, you could drop 2 of these, fix your hand a little bit, have nice 3-3s. Pretty cool. Last unit, our other LR. This is Aile Strike Gundam. Very good card. This is one you see a lot in actually the beta format stuff. This is a great one because of the 4-4. It's a blocker, and when paired, you get to choose one enemy unit with 4 or less HP and return it to the hand. It's a blocker with a bounce. Matches up with Kira. Really good card. This is really, really good. This is probably one of my more favored cards in all the decks, just because, you know, you get that blocker, you get the bounce. Because he matches with Kira, you get to decrease someone's AP when you're swinging. Just comes in huge. It's a very good card. Definitely something you're going to run it for when you can get 2 of the structure decks together. So awesome. Bases. Bases has one really good one not so good one. Kind of how the blue-white deck did. One good one, one not so good one. And Archangel, if you've been watching any of the beta stuff, you know Archangel is one of the best, if not the best base in the game, because it lets you restand a blocker. That lets you swing, restand so you can get your block, or just protect your unit from the next turn. Amazing card. Then we've got Vesalius. This one, restless space, one enemy unit gets +1 AP. That is better than the other base that actually will give 1 AP to your units that are linked. This is just a general 1 AP, but it's 1 AP. Yeah, I mean, white base is way better. It gives you a token. Archangel gives you your blocker back. There's just better bases to have. It's not bad. It's not good. It's decent. And of course, all these bases are going to let you pick up a shield, put it in your hand. That's what I use the bases for most of the time, especially these ones that aren't that great. So I'd much rather play 4 Archangels than have 2 of these. So there's that. Okay, we got Zala. Zala is a link. When he gets linked, you get to choose an active enemy unit that is a level 5 or lower, and you get to attack it. That's pretty good. You know, if you're hooking him up with any of your breach stuff, it lets you breach through something that was not rested. Pretty darn cool. The 1-2, he's more of a defensive guy, which is kind of nice. You know, you put him on something that's going to be able to swing over. The 2 HP is probably going to make it so your guy survives that, especially if you're playing him with this guy right here. That is a 3-4 that makes him a 4-6. 6 HP is a lot of HP. Not too many units are going to get over that in one shot. So usually you're going to get 1 attack off of him, and then he may get cleaned up the next turn, but that's trading 2 units for 1 unit. I'll take that bet. And then Kira. Kira is one of the best units currently in the game. Kura Yamato. He is a 2-1, so he's the opposite of the other one, so he gives you more attack, a little less HP, but still it's 3 stat points, and 3 stat points are really good. And this one's amazing because he gets to choose an enemy unit that when he attacks, they get -2 AP. This is going to let you trade over units much, much easier. So you're trading and surviving, then trading and surviving kind of deal. It's really good just to try and, you know, keep that card value up. And that's what white does. White is all about that value. And that's why white decks are really good. You know, it's hard to beat them. So really good unit. Also, he links with a ton of stuff. Love him. And actually, I will say this deck has 2 really good pilots. You know, some have kind of meh, good, you know, kind of deal. The commands, not terrible, you know. This guy, he links with some lower cost stuff. You know, this thing right here is a 3/2. He links with it. Can be really, you know, really nice. Hawk of Endymion. He's a 1/0 guy, so he's going to let you, you know, beat over some of that bigger stuff. And you're putting him on a unit that has a decent amount of HP anyway, so that's going to be pretty nice. And then see his actual effect: choose one enemy unit with 3 or less HP, and return it to the hand. It's a nice bounce. The one thing you have to remember: don't bounce units that have pilots on them, especially if they're link pairs. Just because if it's not a link pair, if it's just a pair, you can go ahead and bounce. But link pairs you don't want to bounce because they're going to come right back out and right into attacking. So careful what you bounce, you know. Then we've got another pilot command, the Magic Bullet of Dusk. Let's see, this gives First Strike. It's not bad. First Strike's pretty decent, especially with some of our cards, like this one up here. You know, it can get First Strike, and since it only has the 1 HP, you know, it can survive that extra turn. But really, I don't really use this card like that much. It was more used as a link pair, you know, trying to get that added value out of him. Last one, probably one of my favorite commands. You get a choice of either having a 4/2 blocker or a 2/4 blocker token, which is crazy good. You know, you're going to be able to have something that's either going to be swing over stuff or something that's going to take 2 swings to get over. So really, I love this card. It has a burst effect where you're going to get deploy 1 3/3 token. So awesome card. The only downside is if you already have one of these on board, you can play the other one, but nothing happens. So you have to be careful about that, not to screw yourself over and use one when you've already used one. Other than that, really good card. I set this to 2, and I set my pilots to 2, and my bases to 2. Still really, really solid deck. Let's go into how it did in the matches. So this one did well, but not great. Versus Structure Deck 1, it went 5-5, which I kind of consider a losing strategy. And that's because these decks are very similar, except Structure Deck 1, I think, is just better. Obviously, I think Structure Deck 1 is the best of the structure decks, and it's a good deck versus a better deck. So you're just going to lose out because this deck's about getting value, the other deck's about getting value. This one just values better because of mostly the blue. The blue just helps you in that more than the red does. So still, you know, it just doesn't lose. It doesn't do great there. Versus ST2. ST2 obviously is not a great deck. Somebody did comment, it's like something that won 19 matches. How are you going to call that a bad deck? It's not a bad deck. It's just not better than these. This one is obviously better than Structure Deck 2. Went 8-2. That's pretty good. Lost like 2 of the last 3 matches. I remember when I was playing this, I was like, is this going to go undefeated? Am I going to make it? And then I just kind of bricked. One thing this deck, it did show that this deck can have a problem with is finishing out games. You can get kind of starved for cards. So you just have to watch that. You don't go for the face too much or try to clear things too much so you're losing cards. Keeping your board presence is pretty important in this game. And this does have a little bit of that problem. Structure Deck 3. Structure Deck 3, I said last episode, is a very middle of the road. And as you can see, you know, 7-3, I won out versus it. But let's go back to this one and see kind of how it worked with it. 7-3 and 7-3. I'm going to count that as like an even split because I was able to do similar stuff as the deck versus the deck or versus the deck as the deck. So I would say they're pretty even. Then obviously I didn't play myself. Okay, overall, how do I think this deck did? Again, this is a middle of the road deck. Structure Deck 1, obviously the best deck. Structure Deck 2, obviously the worst deck. Structure Deck 3 and 4, I think are kind of interchangeable. You can kind of go both ways. If you like playing a more defensive game, go with Structure Deck 4. If you like more aggressive game, Structure Deck 3 is your way to go. But if I had to choose, let's pull up the things here just so we can kind of get an overarching look. So let's see. He did 7 and 3. Did I lose out any time? Really hard. Well, that Structure Deck 2. And yeah. You know, I think it's a crapshoot. Yeah. I'm gonna say Structure Deck 3 is better than Structure Deck 4. Structure Deck 4 is going to be number 3, just because it had a really bad round of games versus Structure Deck 1, and then it did pretty good on the rest of it. And Structure Deck 3 was just even across the board. So I think that's how I'm gonna rate that. So 1, 3, 4, 2. But don't worry, once we get close to this game coming out and it's guaranteed what cards we're definitely going to get in this deck, if they add a little few more to us, I'll do another overview of all the decks together just so you can see if anything changed, but I don't think it's going to. Okay guys, that's it for me today guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed this little short series of looking over each of the structure decks card by card and match by match, and it helped you guys choose which deck you're going to buy, which deck you're going to play in these events, and if you're going to play this game, because I hope you do, because I already love this game and I want more people to play it. But hey, you know what I always say, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. And I'll see you in the next one. See ya.